Hello guys, and welcome back to the fourth part of our blog application tutorial. I'm so sorry if this video came out only now, but I've been busy with my projects. To apologize, I promise there will be a very nice extra content. In the last episode we saw how to read our blog posts and how to create a search bar on our front end to make post research based on the post title and the post hashtag. And we saw as well how to make server-side rendering of our post data into our HTML template. Today we can finally build the third one of the 4 CRUD operation. I'm talking about the update operation. In short, we want to make the user able to update the post information, image included. As you can see from our application, we have created the edit button inside the read post route, but we are not able to see the edit page like in our complete application. As you can see here, if we click, this button don't work yet. But if we go in our complete application, here, if I click, I get back the edit route, okay? So, to achieve the result, we need to perform these 4 steps. We have to build the HTML template, we have to build the post update object, send this object to our server, and finally update our database. We always start from the front-end part, so let's start to create the HTML template to make the user able to see the post data. So let's go in our template folder, let's change here the browser tab, we want to see our application. Okay, here we have to create a new file and we can call it postedit.html. So let's start to create our HTML template. If you remember, we have already created our post create HTML template file. So here we have only to copy this markup and paste it inside our postedit.html, and we have to update some fields. So here we want to perform a path request, we want to update our ID, so here will be edit, okay. Let's give a check to all the other fields. So here we have to update this to edit, okay. I think that all is okay, but at the end of this form we have to add another form because we want to make the user able to delete the post. So here we can insert a form with method is equal to delete, and we want to give him an ID of post delete form, and here we want to insert an input, okay, and the type of this input will be submit, and as well we want to give it a value of delete post, okay. Let's save our postedit.html file. But if you remember, when you are dealing with create template in vanilla Node.js, and specifically with this pattern, create a template is always a 3-step process. So we have to update our router object in our server.js file, and we have also to create a specific handler inside the handlers.js file in order to manage our HTML code and to render it inside our browser. So let's go in our server.js file. Here we have to add a new route, will be the edit route, and will be handled by the handlers.edit. Let's save our server.js file. Let's go in our handlers.js file, and if you remember, we have 2 kinds of handlers. We have the controllers handlers that will manage the logic, and we have the view handlers that manage the HTML code. So here we have just to copy our handlers.postCreate and paste it below here, and we have only to update some value. So here we want that our handler's name will be edit, like the name we have inserted in our router object, and here we want to pass the template we have just created. So here post edit, we can save our handlers.js file and we are ready to see the change we have just made. So we can restart our Node.js server, and here we can say node index.js, and here if we go on the edit path, as you can see, we are able to see our HTML template, but before we manage to build the post update object, we have to make the user able to see the actual post data. To achieve this goal, we have to make a client request from our interface to grab the post data. To perform our request and grab the correct post data from our server, we have to make the server understand what post we want. If you remember, in the last episode, we have built the read HTML template. As you can see here, we can see all the post information, but as we said before, our edit button don't work yet. But if you remember, in the read feature, in order to make the server understand what kind of post we want to read and what kind of post data we want to pass in our browser, we have created a query string where we have passed the post ID on our URL bar. So we have to do the same things for our edit route. In order to achieve this goal, we have to go in our post read.html template and build inside the href attribute the query stream object that will point to our post data. So here we can say /edit ID equals to our post ID, that will be ID. If you don't remember what we have done in the last episode, in this page we are able to inject directly from our server memory the post information data. So here we are doing nothing else than injecting in our href attribute our post ID. So in order to make you understand better, we can save our post read.html file, and if we click here on our edit button, as you can see in our URL, we have the post ID, and now we are able to handle this post ID and to send it to our server in order to get back our post data. So to achieve this result, we have to jump in our app.js file, and we have to create a new function that we can call app.edit post, and we want this function asynchronous, so we can type the attribute async, and we want to wrap all the function inside a try catch block as well. Okay, so before we start to write down the code, I want to explain what we are going to do here. Inside this function, we are going to build two behaviors. The first one will help us to display the post data inside our form and make the user understand what kind of data there is inside the form. And in the second part of this function, we are going to build the post update object. So the first thing that we want to do is to grab the post ID from our URL. To achieve this result, we only have to say post ID is equal to window dot location dot href dot split, and we want to split using the equal, and we want to take the second piece. If you are not familiar with the split function, this function basically will split up a given string based on the value that we are passing inside the function, in this case the equal character, and give back to us an array with the result of the split operation. Let's take a look for a moment to our URL. As you can see here, this is our string. The split function will split up this string exactly here and give us back an array containing with index 0 this string and with index 1 this string, okay? So we want to match our post ID, so here we have to pass inside the square brackets the number 1. So now we can go ahead and perform some checks to our post ID. So here we can say post ID is equal to type of post ID we want that will be equal to a string. And we want to build our query string object where we want to pass our post ID as an ID. Okay, and now we can try to console log out this post data in order to see if all is working okay. So here we can say console.log and we want to pass our post data. Let's save our app.js file and we can update our blog application. Let's go in our console here, and as you can see here, we don't see nothing because we have also to initialize this function. So here we have to say if window.location.pathname is equal to our new route edit, we want to pass app.editPost function. Okay, let's save, let's refresh, and as you can see here, we get back all the post information data. Okay, now we have only to grab this data and display inside our form, and to achieve this goal we have to grab each input inside our form. So here we can say let image review Okay, at this point we have grabbed all the input inside our form, and in order to make the user able to see the post information and as well to have the form already compiled, we have to pass this data inside our input tags using the value method. So here we have only to grab all these inputs and to pass inside this input the post data. We can start from the title, so here we can say title input dot value is equal to our post data dot title, and if we save and if we refresh the page, as you can see here, the title has appeared inside our browser. So we can go ahead with all the input in this way. Okay, if we save our app.js file and we update our blog application, as you can see now we are able to see all the post information, but as you can see here, we are not able to see the post image. So let's go in our app.js file to build this feature, and it's very easy to achieve this goal because we have only to update the src attribute of our image preview tag in our edit post template. So here we have only to say image preview.src is equal to the path of our image. It will be public images upload, and here we want to pass the name and the extension of our files. So here we can say plus post data dot file name plus we want to pass the dot plus post data dot file extension. Okay, and now if we save our app.js file and we refresh the page, as you can see here, now we are able to display our post image. So at this point we have only to go ahead to build our post update object, but this part of code is pretty much the same of the part we have built for the app.createPost function. So let's go in our app.postCreate function. Let's grab all these things. Okay, let's copy and let's paste it here. And we have to make some change here. We have to update the ID. We have to change the method here to path, and as well here. But in order to make the user able to update the post object, even if there are not image data, we have to build an additional condition that checks this for us. So here, just after our acceptable extension variable, we have to create a new if condition. If our post image dot size is equal to 0, if this is true, we want to build our post edit object without our post image data. And now we want to perform our request. Let's console log out our server response. Server response here. Let's correct this little typo. Let's save our app.js file. Okay, let's check if all is okay. Let's refresh our blog page, and if we try to update something and we go to the inspect tool, we get back an error, and this is because we have passed here the ID, but we don't want to pass here the ID. We want to pass the post ID here. So let's reload the page. Let's try to update something. Let's publish. And as you can see, finally, we have an error on our server because it's not able to understand what to do with our path request because we don't have the enders function. So let's go in our enders.js file in order to create this function. We have to create a new function in the enders section. So here we can say okay, and as usual we want to wrap all inside a try catch function. Okay, let's save, and as usual we want to perform some checks. The checks that we are going to perform here are the same that we have performed in our blog.post function. So here we have only to grab these checks and paste it here. Okay, the only difference with the post create is that we are passing through the payload an ID. So we have also to update our app.js file. So here we have to take this piece of code and we have to paste it here, and we have to paste it here. Okay, let's save our app.js file. Let's go here, and we want to check if our ID respects this condition. As usual, we want to check if there is our ID. We can say if ID. We want to check if there are the other post information. So if So here the first thing that we want to do is to read the post data. And we can check if post data exists. Okay. Let's close for a moment this terminal. Maybe we can zoom a little bit in. Okay. So now we can start to update the post object. So if title, we want post data dot title is equal to title. Okay. And we can continue like this with all the post information. Okay, we want to check the reading minutes as well. And now we have also to perform the update operation on the image file data. So here we can say we want to create a random string which will be our image name. We want to initialize two arrays. Okay. And in this to array, we will store all the post images, name and extension that the user will update for that post. In this way, when we want to delete that post, we can delete all the related images. Here we can say all post images dot push, and we want to push our image file name, and we want to push inside our extension array as well our file extension. And now we can perform the update operation on the postData.filename and the postData.fileExtension string. So here we can say postData.filename is equal to our random string. So here image file name and postData.file extension is equal to our file extension. Okay. Now, in order to make the user able to update this to array even if there are no image inside our server, we have to include this condition. So if postData.allPostImages, and if there are not postData.allPostImages extensions, if these two arrays are not in our postData object, we want to update them as well. So postData.allPostImages is equal to allPostImages and postData.allPostImages extension is equal to allPostImages extension. Okay, as we want to push our image file data inside this object. So basically here we are saying that if there are an array created inside our postData object, we want to update it and we want to push inside it the new data. Okay. So at this point we have only to check if there is the file content. So here we can say if file content. Okay, we can save our image using our create image function of our data object. So here we can say await data.createImage, and here we want to pass the folder. So we want to pass the upload folder. We want to pass the file name and the file extension. So here postData.filename plus postData.file extension, and we want to pass as well our file contents, and we want to pass the encoding attribute that will be base64. So here we can say encoding and will be base64. Okay, so at this point we have only to update our postData object. So here let update object is equal to await data.update, and here we want to pass our post folder, we want to pass our post ID, and we want to pass our post data object. Okay, but this function does not exist yet, so let's go in our data.js file to build it. So here we can say lib.update, we want an async function, we want to pass the directory, we want to pass the file, and we want to pass the data. As usual, we have to wrap all inside a try catch block. And now we can start to build our update function. So here we can say let file handle is equal to await fs promises, we want to use the open method, which will make us able to open a file. So here we want to pass our lib.base_dir_string, we want to pass the directory, we want to pass a /, we want to pass our file name, and we want to pass the JSON extension, and as well we have to pass the r+ flag because we want to only read this file. So now we have to use the truncate method in order to make our update process work. So here we have to say await file handle, and we want to use the truncate method. Okay, so if there is a file handle, we want to stringify our data object. So here we can say let string data is equal to json.stringify, and here we want to pass our data, and we want to write this data inside our file using the write file method of the fs promises module. So here we can say await fs promises dot write file, and here we want to pass the file handle, and we want to pass our string data. Okay, and as last thing we have to close the file. So await file handle dot close. Okay, at the end of the process we want to return true. Okay, let's save our data.js file. Let's go back in our handlers.js file. Okay, and as you can see here, we want only to check if there is our update object. Okay, if this is true, we want to return a status code of 200, and we want to send back a payload containing a message of success, and we can say your post has been updated. Okay, let's save our handlers.js file, and as well as the other handlers function, we have also to manage the errors. If we have some problem with the update operation, with the update flow, we have to give back an error. So here return, and we want to give back a status code of 500, and we want to give back a payload, and we want to give back an error updating the file. Okay, and we want to do this as well for the other conditions. So here and here we can say reading the file because we are inside the read workflow. Here as well 400, and we can say you have to type something, and as well here error with the post ID. Okay, let's save our handlers.js file. Let's open our terminal. Here let's restart our node server, and if we go here, okay, and we try to update a field, and as you can see here we get back a success message. Your post has been updated. If we refresh the page, as you can see here, we have the same data we have just created. If we try to change the image, like the CSS logo, if we click on publish, as you can see here, we have the CSS image. The last feature that we want to build today is to make the user able to see the image preview when he tries to update or create a new post. If we take a look for a moment at our complete application, if we try to create a new post and we try to upload a new image here, as you can see, if we try to upload the HTML logo here, we get back the image preview. But if we do the same things in our application, if we try to upload some image here, like the CSS logo, as you can see here, we have no preview. So to achieve this goal, we have to go in our app.js file. Let's close this tab here, and we have to create a new function that we can call show preview. So let's say app.showPreview is equal to a function. The first thing that we want to do is to grab our post image through the query selector method. And we want to bind this HTML element to a change event. And we want to point to the file that the user has just uploaded by using the target property. Basically here we are checking if the user has really uploaded a file. Now we have to build the src variable. Okay, at this point we have only to grab the HTML element that will contain our image preview. And we have to match the src attribute that we have just built with the src attribute of our image preview. And as last things, we have to initialize this function inside our create route and inside our edit route. So let's go here, app.showPreview, and here let's save our app.js file. Let's refresh our application. Let's try to upload a new image, like the Node.js logo. And as you can see now, we are able to see the image preview. Now let's try to see if it's working okay also in our edit tab. So let's go here, let's go here, let's try to upload another image, like the HTML logo. And as you can see here also, we are able to see the image preview. And that's all for this episode, guys. I really want to thank you for your support, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. The next one will come very soon, I promise. And as I said before, there will be a very nice extra content for you. And as I have announced in the comments below one of my video, in this application we will build also an authentication process through the JSON token. So stay tuned, see the next one, guys.